Welcome to Daily Variety, your daily dose of news and analysis for entertainment industry insiders. It's Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Cynthia Littleton. I am co-editor-in-chief of Variety alongside Ramin Satuda. I'm in LA, he's in New York, and Variety has reporters around the world covering the business of entertainment. In today's episode, we'll hear from Variety's music chief, Jem Oswald, on how we assemble our annual Hitmakers issue, which is published today in print and online. It's a survey of the artists and the teams behind the year's biggest music hits. The irrepressible Sabrina Carpenter is the radiant star on our cover, and then we'll catch up on the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding process with Todd Spangler. But before we get to that, here are a few headlines just in this morning that you need to know. This is the best time to be a Beatlemaniac since the anthology series came out. Sam Mendes is working on his 4 Beatle biopics. Now the BBC and Turbine Studios are working on a 6-part drama revolving around the band's famous early stint in Hamburg in the Reeperbahn district. Hamburg Days is based on the memoir of the legendary bassist Klaus Voormann. Voormann was a young guy in Hamburg who found himself in the right club at the right time to intersect with history. Mach Schau! Everybody's talking about the snafus found in the Mad Men episodes that have become available on HBO Max. This is a digital age problem of formatting and aspect ratio, and this won't be the last time this happens. Sympathies to Mad Men creator Matt Weiner, who poured his heart and soul into every frame. R.I.P. Tammy Rosen, the longtime head of communications for the Tribeca Film Festival and Sundance Institute, has died at the age of 49. Rosen was a force of nature, as you have to be to get a film festival off the ground. Deepest sympathies to her friends and family. All of these stories and so much more can be found on Variety.com right now. Now it's time for conversations with Variety journalists about news and trends in show business. Jem Oswald, Variety's executive editor of music, discusses the year-long process of doing the research on the unsung heroes behind the pop hits of the year and the challenge of capturing this moment for our cover star, Sabrina Carpenter, as she ascends into arena headlining status. Here's a bite with Carpenter from our very fun cover story video. It indicates how serious she is about understanding her audience, and that's followed by my conversation with Jem.
I really realized on the emails I can't send to her how people value spontaneity in shows and also feeling like they got something different in their city in that night that no other city has gotten and or just an experience that they felt really special from. And so I wanted to find a way to do that on this tour. And we decided to make our own game of spin the bottle. And instead of everyone kissing each other, we don't do that. We spin the bottle and we sing a different song every night. So it started because I love doing covers. Honestly, if I could just be an ABBA cover band on the side, I probably would. That's not a secret to anybody. But we've done quite a few ABBA covers. But the most popular I would say on this tour is Mamma Mia. That is just like by far the most fun for everybody. We've done Lay All Your Love on Me. We did 9 to 5. That was really fun. We've done Kiss Me. We've done some really, really great songs. We did Super Freak in LA because obviously.
Jem Oswald, you are not even 2 hours after landing at LAX coming in for the celebration that is Hitmakers. Welcome back to LA.
Well, thank you for that, and I figure I might as well get started because this is all I'm going to be doing for the next 5 days.
Hitmakers, for the uninitiated, it's one of the biggest print editions of the year that we do. It's one of the biggest data efforts that we do around music every year, where we basically take the measure of the year's top 25 songs, the most played 25 songs. And my favorite thing about this issue is that it is consciously, from the moment it was birthed 9 years ago, about celebrating the people behind these songs. Of course, the great artists and of course the songwriters, but behind every great song is a team of people pushing the rock up the hill. Nothing becomes a #1 hit on its own, and this issue always really looks at the people from marketing and communications to the producers to the contributor that made that one suggestion that turned good into great. And when you get to the finish line, we always congratulate you more than once because it's a real achievement. How do you feel about this year's package?
The challenge with Hitmakers all along has been to keep making it better because, to my continuing astonishment, it gets bigger every single year.
Again, I just want to stress there's so much research. There's beat reporting 365 days of the year to know who the power players are here, but it really does show a lot of expertise of our mighty music team, which you lead. So you start by identifying the top 25 songs. We get help from that from our PMC siblings at Billboard and Luminate, and we're very grateful for that.
Quite honestly, I start getting the year-to-date charts from Luminate starting in March. Usually by early July, I have a general sense of what the charts are gonna look like, and by then you pretty much know what the flavor of the year is.
Certainly by summer, it was looking like a Sabrina Carpenter kind of year. And she also has Espresso, that incredible earworm hit, is in fact number 25.
So it was not a hard decision to come to Sabrina Carpenter. This has been a syndrome with the chart this year. There are a lot of songs that have hung in since 2024. It's something like 13 songs from 2024 are on the 2025 chart. 4 songs that were in the top 10 last year are also in the top 10 this year.
Looking at the chart page here, and you've got Shabuzi and that incredible bar song, and Teddy Swims with Lose Control, and Benson Boone with Beautiful Things. But the champion of that has got to be Pink Pony Club from Chappell, Roan, which I think general listeners might be surprised to be reminded that that first came out in 2020, and it had a long, slow, but steady march up the charts. It's especially cool to hear it when you're in West Hollywood or driving through West Hollywood. You really feel like you're part of a moment.
The song has sort of been the centerpiece of her narrative. They insisted on releasing it in her original record deal with Atlantic Records. They released it in 2020. It was right around the beginning of the pandemic, and she was released from a record contract shortly after that. They managed to retain the rights to the song, and I saw Chappell Roan at the end of February 2023. It was when this current arc was just beginning. And I wrote this article that you can find right now. That was just basically Chappell Roan meets her moment because I was so blown away. I knew a couple of her songs, but I was just like, something is really going on here. You do this long enough, you walk into a room and you're like, something's happening here.
Gem, I cannot resist. Something is happening, and you do know what it is, Mr.
Yeah.
Oswald. Back to our cover star. The challenge of doing a cover profile with somebody like Sabrina Carpenter, who is in a white hot moment, is that she gets a lot of coverage. And in the age of social media, there's not a lot of mystery about people's lives. But at the same time, Sabrina's been in the thick of things. And there was, of course, quite a hubbub about the original album cover for her new album, Man's Best Friend. So there was a lot for Salome Hailu, our fantastic correspondent, to unpack as she sat down with her in New York. And it's a great conversation. I won't spoil it, but she addresses the man's best friend dust up directly and a lot of other things. It struck me reading it that this is a person that is maturing as an artist.
The thing that was remarkable to me is that she was on our cover 14 or 15 months ago. And when you're doing the kind of in-depth cover stories that we do, that's a challenge. But Sabrina is that much farther along in her career. I mean, this is really her growth period as a headlining artist. And I wondered how we were going to do it differently. We assigned a different writer to it, obviously. But what was very interesting is that Sabrina was at the beginning of the arc that she's on now. It was pegged to when Short and Sweet had just come out. It was much more about her career. It was much more about her past. But this time, Salome was very interesting. I said to her that this article felt like a glimpse into a Gen Z girl's world in a way because she observed fans in the girls' room at Sabrina's Madison Square Garden concert on Halloween and what they were talking about. And the fact that she and Sabrina were the same age made for a connection and an understanding.
It's always about casting that writer. Well, again, congratulations. Thank you for all the labor on this issue. You did it well and on deadline, and so appreciative. And you're not done yet, though. You have MC duties on Saturday when we have the awesome Hitmakers brunch, which is truly one of my favorite events on the calendar. And I know for the music biz, for all the unsung heroes behind all these hits, it's a really fun community thing just as we ease into the December holidays. and you are a great host. And before we sign off, after all this talk about Hitmakers, we have to give a shout out to Variety's former music editor, Shirley Halprin, who's now co-EIC of Rolling Stone. She is the mother of Hitmakers, when she was with us, and we are grateful that she built such a sturdy franchise that Jem, you and the team have expanded on.
It's become really a very special event for the music community. People like the fact that it's kind of chill. It's a brunch on a Saturday. It's invite only. People get dressed up, and it's really just an opportunity to celebrate everybody.
And now we'll check in with Variety business editor Todd Spangler on round 2 of bidding for Warner Brothers Discovery. Will there be a round 3? We'll discuss the state of play for the 3 contenders: Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix. Todd Spangler, thanks for joining me.
Hello, hello.
There's a lot going on. The Warner Brothers Discovery situation is kind of a follow a bouncing ball. They are running a tight ship. It's taken a while for Variety and other publications to really crack the details of what those second round bids are, but we are seeing some signs of light as to what's in the bid, what people are asking for, what they're not asking for. Let me start by asking you, Dodd, catch us up in terms of what's the state of play here.
So we know that Netflix, Comcast, and Paramount Skydance, they all came back with higher bids. We don't know what they're offering in terms of the dollar amount. But what we do know is that Paramount Skydance, which just was created in August through Skydance's takeover of Paramount, they upped their bid and they're now going to Warner Brothers Discovery with an offer for the entire company with backing from 3 of these Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds.
Yes, that was an interesting development today, and not to belabor this point, but our terrific correspondent in Rome, Nick Vivarelli, and yourself reported about a week ago that such a deal was in progress. At the time, that was met with some pretty fierce resistance from the Paramount Skydance camp. It sometimes does happen in reporting that you can be a little ahead of the news when it's real. And of course, in deal making, nothing's done till it's done. But we also knew there was more to the story. And this morning, there was that more to the story.
Right.
So what's significant about this beyond the fact that Paramount has some serious financial muscle?
Well, so this would be an all cash offer. We understand that Netflix and Comcast would be mostly cash, but some equity as well. So obviously, an all cash bid is more attractive to the seller. The Ellisons have gone to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi to say, hey, would you join this bid and own a piece of the new company if the bid is successful?
We certainly know from covering the wide world of media and entertainment that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, their Middle Eastern countries are very, very eager to become much bigger players on the world stage of media than the region has been in the past. And certainly, especially in Saudi Arabia, we know that there is this awakening that it could be hampering the country's growth and its emergence on the world stage not to have a more robust media sector. In the last decade, they have been trying to change that. So it comes as no surprise that they would be interested in these assets. I mean, that is a lot of financial firepower. It seems to me like David Ellison is really trying to make the Warner Brothers Discovery board, because that's who will decide this. He's trying to make them an offer they literally can't refuse.
Yes, that's been the strategy from the get-go.
And I do know there is some frustration in the C-suite at Warner Brothers about that, because I believe that their preference would be to have continued with the plan. They had planned to go forward and separate sometime next year the Warner Brothers Studio and the HBO and HBO Max streamer from the existing cable channels, the same process that NBC Universal is in the process of now splitting off from now MS Now and CNBC and all of those channels. And I think if you asked internally, the Warner Brothers preference would be to go through with that. But David Ellison had other ideas and has really forced this auction.
Yeah.
And then what is your sense of the Comcast of it all?
What we've known for several weeks now is Comcast is interested, like Netflix, in just the HBO Max and Warner Brothers Studios side of it. So in that scenario, the idea is that you would merge basically Peacock with HBO Max, and you would combine the studio operations into a mega studio that, combines everything under the Universal umbrella with everything under the Warner Brothers umbrella. So that would be the plan there. For Netflix, we don't know what the thinking is in terms of, do they merge? HBO Max into Netflix proper? Do they keep them separate brands for some reason for a period of time? Those sorts of details aren't clear just yet.
We've heard speculation that the Netflix deal is also largely cash. And it's interesting because if one of the three could use stock as currency, you'd think it would be Netflix.
That's right.
What is your hunch on the prospect that the Warner Brothers board goes through this, perhaps even another round, and says, these just aren't compelling. We think we're going to continue on with our plan and we will be able to do better when these assets are discrete. Do you have any sense of is that a path that is still viable for them?
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. But again, what we don't know is what is the premium that these three bidders are offering. And it gets a little bit apples to oranges when you're saying what is the valuation of Warner Brothers sliced off from the linear TV business? And then how do you value that against a Paramount Skydance bid for the entire company? It gets tricky.
Right.
If the Warner Brothers Discovery Board feels that they have more upside in going it alone, making an acquisition play of somebody else, if they believe that that's a stronger hand, they'll stick with the split and go that way, for sure.
At the same time, we all know the words fiduciary duty. And if the Ellisons throw a ton of money at the company at a time when media asset valuation is very volatile, it will be hard for them on a purely fiduciary duty if they just put up a ton of money. And when you're aligning not one, not two, but three Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds, I'm guessing you're lining up a fair amount of coin.
Yeah, but to your point, they could decide, hey, we want to control our own destiny and we think it'll be better for investors if we go it alone.
So much to watch. Well, Todd, that keeps us all employed. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Cynthia.
As we close out today's episode, here's a few things we're watching for. Here comes Variety's Actors on Actors Season 23. The rollout of the biannual video interview series begins on Friday, December 5th, and we'll have one a day through Wednesday, December 17th. We have a new partnership with CNN to air the episodes, and they'll also be available on Variety.com and YouTube as ever. There are 13 pairings this time. We start with Ariana Grande and Adam Sandler, and we end with Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio. Congrats to my co-EIC, Ramin Satuda, who leads the charge on this great franchise. Don't miss my colleague Brian Steinberg's interesting report on a commercial coming to the Super Bowl in February. It involves Svedka vodka and AI. We love to hear from our listeners, so please send thoughts, gripes, and other feedback about Daily Variety to podcasts@variety.com. And while you're at it, go to Variety.com and subscribe to Variety's precious print magazine. Before we go, congrats to Ethan Hawke. The great actor and star of FX's The Lowdown will receive the Career Achievement Honor at the Palm Springs International Film Festival on January 3rd. Thanks for listening. This episode was written and reported by me, Cynthia Littleton, with contributions from Jem Oswald and Todd Spangler. Sticks, Nicks, Hick Pigs. Please leave us a review at the podcast platform of your choice, and please tune in tomorrow for another episode of Daily Variety.